Lily, thank you for overcoming your bitterness towards me and attending class today. I'll make it just a little bit short just for you. Welcome to 2 inches of snow 1 month after the end of winter. Kind of feels like a snow day, right? You're at home, there's snow on the ground. Okay, waiting just a couple more people. Okay, everybody, let's get started here. Several things going on we need to be keeping track of. Okay, grammar, we have a test on phrases that is posted and you need to complete that by tomorrow night. It's gonna look like it's a little bit chopped up, like you're starting in the middle of something, but it was a really long test. And so I kind of divided up sections that I thought would work well and not overwhelm you. So again, no pressure, but make sure you complete on time, get that easy test grade. With vocab, you have sections 1 through 4 of lesson 13 that should be complete by tonight if you've not already done that. Main thing, big grade that's going on is character analysis outline due by tonight. I've seen several people have already turned that in. I thought we'd definitely give you the opportunity to ask any questions, but a lot of you are kind of emailing me about something. Several people emailed wondering if they needed to put 3 quotes rather than 2. And I think probably what I did there was I stressed more maybe having 3 in previous times when I've taught this, and I'm kind of abbreviating things under COVID circumstances. You don't need to feel an obligation to have any more than 2. But at least while you're writing it, if you have one of your paragraphs and you don't feel like you're giving it a full treatment or it's kind of on the brief side, then adding a 3rd quote would certainly not hurt things, especially if you're really shooting for an A. Okay, so look at that rubric, make sure you're doing what you need to do. Add a 3rd quote if you want, no obligation. Okay, it's okay if those are blank. All right, and let me just kind of pause for a sec here. Does anybody else have any other questions about that? There's a document on there that gives you examples of opening and closing devices, so you can at least indicate what you plan to use. Is anybody wondering about anything else there? And go ahead and, I don't know what they indicate, but go ahead and put the parenthetical reference with that page number, include that with a quote, because you already did that, right? You have it. I think everybody that's done the assignment, I don't think anybody blew off putting page numbers, and that's good. But I bring that right along with your quote into your outline. So we feeling okay on that? Okay. So finally, we're going to start our last unit. I've pretty much decided, so we only have like 5 weeks, right? 4.5, 5 weeks. I don't think I'm going to do some brief works, short stories and poems and stuff like that in Study Sync. I don't like doing that as much anyway. I just find it kind of tedious. And I don't want to skip out and not have a novel 4th quarter. So I think like beginning next week, we're probably just going to go ahead and dive into To Kill a Mockingbird. Not what I was planning on doing at first, but I'm not sure I feel capable of organizing you guys. Maybe some of you would be fine to do like independent novels. And I think we'd be better off just doing a novel that is mostly read in 9 honors most years anyway. And that's a pretty easy sell. Most people like it a lot. So I think I'm ready to do that. I'll get back to you on that. Anyway, to start our last unit, the theme is empathy. And we're going to start a blast assignment in class like we do every other quarter, even though this is kind of late. And you'll have one part of the assignment due by sometime tomorrow and the last part of the assignment due by Friday. I'll go over that in a minute. But before I forget, last thing here, make sure to see the link posted about this summer's AP Honors Camp for incoming 10th graders, which is you, okay? You know, it seems like this year has kind of slipped by. Just to kind of show you here, there is one for 10th graders as well as 9th, okay? This kind of looks like it was sent to me because it was. I just kind of pasted the whole thing in here, but you need to go to this link and you need to sign up. I think you probably are supposed to give an indication and preference for one of 3 different weeks, and it'll be similar to last year, and then it will be Zoomed. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be doing one of them or not. Well, you wouldn't have me anyway because you'll have a 10th grade teacher. So any questions about that or anything else so far? Okay, then keep watching my screen share for now, and let me show you, kind of get into this blast assignment here. Okay, so the theme, and therefore the blast, is about the concept of what's known as empathy, and how do we develop empathy for others. In fact, that is your blast response prompt. How do human beings, in other words, develop? What is the origin of empathy? But before we do that, we have to understand what it is. So is there anybody out there who knows that word and knows what it means? Feel free to speak up. Kind of sounds like another word that you most definitely know. So if nothing else, what does empathy kind of sound similar to? Anybody can speak today? No idea, huh? Okay, one word that I probably think that some of you realize it sounds similar to is sympathy, right? And you probably know that word. It's similar to that, but it's a more intense version of it, okay? So let's read this background together, and then we'll talk about what we want to do. Oh, we have people chatting, I'm sorry. Yeah, kind of like sympathy. Thank you, Abigail, for sure. Being Bale, I'm not sure what you meant there, Caleb, to understand people's feelings. Being able to understand other people's feelings. Yeah, you guys are totally on the right track there. So I'm going to read this first paragraph there. Hopefully I can get some volunteers to get through this, and then we'll look at what we want to accomplish. So it is our tendency to wince when a child falls and scrapes a knee, or to jump in elation when a runner breaks through the finish line. We are quick to empathize with others. So empathy is the experience of identifying with and understanding another person's feelings, thoughts, or experiences, thoughts, feelings, emotions, or attitudes. It allows us the adventure of seeing through someone else's eyes or placing ourselves in their shoes. Empathy is often confused with sympathy, which are feelings of sorrow for someone else's troubles or grief. Unlike sympathy, empathy involves identification with positive feelings as well as negative ones, really being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Though few would deny that empathy exists, one key question about it remains. Are we born with empathy for others, or is it learned? Is it developed? Is it taught to us? Or is it a combination? You know, that's a kind of a nature versus nurture type debate that goes on with empathy and a lot of other ways that we are human beings do. Are we born with it? No matter how we grow up, we have it, or does it need to be taught to us in order for us to have empathy? Kind of another way of explaining this is sympathy. So you might have, any of us would have human sympathy for someone who has lost a family member to a disease or an accident, right? But if you have also lost a family member to a disease or an accident or something, then you'd have what you more call empathy, right? Because you understand it. You can definitely stand in those shoes, okay? As well as empathy maybe being something about positive and negative feelings. It's about really more being able to step into someone else's shoes instead of just kind of feeling bad for them. Can I get a volunteer to read the second paragraph, starting with many scientists? Let me kind of zoom in a little bit more.
I'll read it.
Who's talking there?
Uh,
Who's talking there?
Me, Sandhya.
Sandy, go ahead, Sandy. Thank you.
Many scientists believe that empathy is an automatic response complex biological process that cannot be taught, imitated, or forced. Some studies suggest that empathy is so biologically ingrained that even animals are capable of experiencing and expressing it. In a 1964 experiment, rhesus monkeys refused to pull a chain that delivered food to them once they realized it delivered a shock to their companions. Dogs have been forced to show concern when their owners cry. Some scientists argue that if animals like monkeys and dogs show empathy, empathy must be an automatic biological response.
Okay, so those of us who own dogs have probably experienced that at some point, right? I think they seem to be capable of that. The monkeys maybe even more so. They're more evolved species, right? Cats, wait, cats, can they have empathy? They can be nice to us. I don't know. I'm not sure about empathy though. I love cats. Not the same as dogs in the sympathy and empathy department, right? So anyway, the question remains. Others believe. Can someone else read that? I can read if needed, but I want to hand out participation points.
I'll read it.
Thanks, Aiden. Go ahead.
Others believe that empathy is a learned behavior. They argue some people may have a greater natural capacity for empathy than others, but everyone is capable of improving their ability to empathize. Neuroscientists know that there is a specific part of our brains that triggers empathy, the right
Supramarginal gyrus, I guess.
marginal, yeah, super marginal gyrus. Neuroscientists suggest that since the brain is a muscle, when people practice empathizing and work the right supramarginal gyrus, they become more effective at empathizing.
Thank you. So although that sounds like a lot of science, it's actually emphasizing that it might be something that we learn, right? As opposed to something that, like some animals possibly, we're born with. Okay, so there's some evidence on both sides. Last paragraph. In this unit, you will read fictional stories, poetry, nonfiction narratives, speeches, and newspaper articles. Actually, for us, mostly just a novel, but that is what the unit is supposed to culminate with. Okay, it is definitely the premier example of a novel about the concept of empathy. There's some really famous lines you might even recognize from it that are about that. Anyway, as you read, write, research, and think about selections, you will consider how empathy plays into your experience and whether you think empathy is an automatic response or a learned behavior. How do we develop empathy for others? And that, of course, once again, is your blast question. Do not put your real response in here, okay? Because we do a little rough draft first. So if you can, I'll show it to you real fast, but if you can then go from my screen share over and actually open this document, Empathy Blast Part 1 on that assignment, and then go ahead and put your rough draft in there. You got 280 characters to work with. I kind of put a little stem in there that could kind of start you off. We humans develop empathy for others because or by what? And you kind of want to sort of maybe take a side or express that it's a combination of whether we are born with it or whether it's something that we learn, or maybe a little bit of both, maybe one more than the other, whatever you think. Okay. But in here, okay, not on that slot for the on the actual site. That's why I've made this document for you. So everybody do that. Take a few minutes, do that right now. Okay. Hopefully you're kind of finishing up something there. Doesn't have to be done right now. I want to get you started. The rest of this document needs to be complete by tomorrow night. Okay. And that is, you guessed it, find 3 research link articles of your choice from the 5 or 6 that are given and read, if not all of them, a good part of it. If it's really long, you can read just part of it, that's fine. And take down notes on 3 interesting facts from each one. That is food for thought. Okay, all that needs to be done by tomorrow night. Looking back over here once again, here's your research links on the main page. You scroll down, got one called The Evolution of Empathy, one called Canine Empathy about dogs, one about how reading literary fiction apparently improves empathy, more of an encyclopedia article about empathy itself, and Power of Empathy, discussing the far-reaching effects of it. Okay, so you choose 3 of those, do those notes. Then by sometime Friday, which I'll put on agenda for tomorrow, we'll talk about in class tomorrow. Then after you've completed that, then we'll want you to put your real one in here and review 4 other people like we usually do. 4 or 5, I don't know, 4 or 5, I'll decide later. Okay. Come off the screen share here. Any questions? Otherwise, that's it. And I will leave you to your work and a slightly longer lunch. Okay. Thanks for being here, guys. Keep up the good work, and see you, some of you, in person tomorrow.